excited to introduce you to women who did go against that grain. Our guest today is Sue Fries, who is the president of Ecola Termite Company and Pest Control, as well as Rosemary Swierk, who is the the founder and president of Direct Steel Construction. So good morning, ladies. How are you doing today? Good morning. So good to see you. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Hi, Desiree.
Hi, it's good to see you. So what we want to do is we're going to share our stories, our challenges, our victories, and secrets to success. Because again, there's many of you ladies that are not even that are here, but also the ones that are not here that's going to hear this, and may just give them that little spark of inspiration or a little motivation to say that yes, they can. So Rosemary, let's start with you. Tell what I read a little bit about you as far as rehabbing abandoned buildings, but just tell us where you started and what prompted that.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. I'm Rosemary Swierk. I'm president of Direct Steel and Construction. We're commercial general contractors, construction managers, and owners representatives. So essentially what that means is we build buildings. My 30 years plus in 3 minutes or less is I'm business major out of Indiana University. I was hired out of school by Black & Decker, and they had me traveling all south the Mason-Dixon line. I did well, and they promoted me and put me in Boston, and I did well there. Then I got recruited back to Chicago, which is where I was born and raised, by an independent manufacturers rep agency. So at any given time, I represent 12, 15 different manufacturers. Again, really feminine products, toolboxes, abrasive wheels, adhesives and lubricants. And I did very well. And in that time frame, I met my husband. We married. We were talking about having kids, and both of us felt it was important for one of us to stay home. And at that time, men didn't stay home, and it didn't matter that I was the breadwinner by a larger margin. So I got pregnant, and on my way to work, and I keep passing a dilapidated building. And I came home one day, told my husband I put an offer on it. And so I got pregnant, got rehabbed, ended up getting a tenant, and the tenant was a bank. And if you've ever had a bank as a tenant, it's a really good gig. And so I'm looking at this pro forma. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a good business plan. We were blessed with 2 daughters who slept 12 to 14 hours a day. Again, very, very blessed. So I kind of started buying more dilapidated buildings, fixing them up, either renting or selling them. Projects got larger, additions, ground up construction, shopping centers. So over the course of many years, created 3 different development companies. In 2004, I was started being asked by other people to general contract for them. That was the beginning of Direct Steel and Construction. I never had any intention of marketing it. But in 2005, and I really can't tell you why I did it, but I listed most of my real estate holdings in a newspaper ad. And most of them sold, and little did I know that that was before the 2008-2009 recession. So it was during the course of that recession that I looked at Direct Steel, and I'm like, I've never marketed this company before, but I think I can do something with it. So I followed the money because there wasn't much construction being done in Chicago, and the federal government had infused the economy with ARRA money, American Recovery Act money. And I quickly learned that getting government work is kind of like getting your first job. You can get the work as long as you experience, but you can't get the experience until you get the work. And so I got a list of 660 Department of Defense prime contractors and called every one. And I got one opportunity to be a prime subcontractor to build a flight simulator facility at Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. And that little work with the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Energy, NAVFAC, VA. And in the meantime, the private stuff started coming back. So we've done work for companies like Navistar, Unilock, TC Industries, Intermatic. And now we've got this really nice balance between both public and private work.
That is like amazing. But you also do banks. I've noticed you do universities. You've got government buildings. I mean, huge projects. What's one of the largest square footage that you have approximately?
So I'll give it to you in construction value. So right now we're working on a $17 million project for the Army Corps of Engineers, and on the private side, our largest is about $30 million.
Wow, that's just fantastic. So was there a lot of resistance when you showed up at a table, when you approached different contractors in different buildings and people?
So, I don't think in this day and age there's any easy industry. And I really credit, I'm one of 6 kids, and I really credit my brothers. I've got 2 older brothers. And it was many years ago, and I turned to him and I go, I really owe you guys a lot of thanks. And they look at each other like, I've never done anything intentionally nice to her. You? And my other brother says, no. And I said, no, 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 seriously, you know how frequently we'd be in the backyards and you guys have had your friends over and we'd be playing football or basketball or even hockey on the pond. And you guys were always the team captains. So all of us would line up and the team captains would select their team one by one. And I said, you guys always picked me first or second. And one brother quickly said, well, I did that because you're fast, not because you're my sister. And my other brother says, I did it because she could catch the ball, not because she's a girl. And I said, that's exactly right. I knew that there wasn't a pity party for me. You selected me because of the value that I could bring to your team. And I think that that's a lifelong lesson that I've really taken to heart.
So, well, being able to carry that through, so it's your attitude. It was your attitude. You showed up, you had the attitude. As long as you could perform, then it didn't matter who, where, or, how you showed up. Is that basically it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great takeaway, ladies. The fact that you know your knowledge, you know your stuff, then you just totally put everything else to the side. And you go in with the attitude that I can perform, I can do this, I can catch, or I can whatever, and you'll be selected for the job. Fantastic. Well, good morning, Sue Freeze. How are you? Good morning, Susan. How are you doing? We're going to unmute you. There you go.
Okay. Am I good now? Okay.
Great now.
Okay, I'm doing fantastic, and I just really appreciate you and what you do, and just thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. She's been with us for years. For years, you put on so many stages in person, on TV, on Zoom, and in our masterminds and our private masterminds. So she's been a great support of our community, and for years now. We won't talk about how long it's been. So how did you get started? Share with the ladies.
Well, I went to FITM, Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. And I was telling this story to some young ladies, because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives, And I said I went from fashion to bugs. Who would have thought? Because I think that's funny. But when I went into the Fashion Institute, I thought I was like, model and fashion, and it would just seem so glamorous to me. And I just really was intrigued and really wanted to be part of that. I get into it and realize that my gifts were not on that side, even though I do love the colors and all of that. But I really found that the business aspect of business was just more intriguing to me than the runway fashions things. Somebody's asking me what years. It was in, let's see, I graduated 75, 76. So right out of high school, I went to FITM, downtown LA. And I was also dancing on American Bandstand at that time. And I got a job with Stacy's Tall Girls. And Stacy's, they had 52 stores or things, and they manufactured their own clothes. So they did all my costumes, which was really fun too. So I did get fun with the costuming and all of that with the dancing. But anyway, I'm getting off track. So when I got married and I always wanted to be in business with my husband. I just thought it would be really cool. Not so much, but anyway, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to work with your husband, especially if there's not healthy boundaries. But I got in the business and I'm like, okay, I needed to learn bugs because I knew I didn't like them, but I didn't know anything about them. And so I started answering the phones and just started to be of help in the office to figure out how this all works. And in doing that, I learned customers what their cares and their needs were. I learned that I was talking to mostly women, and most of the termite and pest control companies were men, and they just didn't understand from a heartfelt nest home, taking care of the kids, taking care of the animals. And so I came from a level of being the mother, and I understood them more than the men did. So I used that for my advantage. And I really loved advertising and marketing, and that is creative. It's using my creative juices. And so I worked with my husband for 20 years and I learned the business there. But he was always the boss and I was always like the secretary. And if we went anywhere, everybody would look right at him. They wouldn't look at me, even though I was operations manager. I was running the operations every single day. He was a fireman, come and go, pay, sign the checks, but I was the one actually running the company. So 20 years in, there was another opportunity with another business, and I decided to take it. And it was a huge nut. It was 1.9 million at the time. I didn't know how I was going to come up with the money. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I needed to do it. And this company was environmentally friendly. And my son he was a chronic asthmatic, wrote a book about it. And so I just decided that there was another way to do this, and I wanted to learn that way, and I wanted to be that person, that niche. And so I did. I kind of went off the beaten path because I was a woman in a man's world. I was one of 10 women in the United States that carried the licensing that I had. And I didn't understand all of that. It really didn't matter to me. I just wanted to do what I do and do it to the best I could. And now I'm a little different. I'm very competitive, and I just want to be top. I want to be the best. And I want to just help other employees, be their best. And so we've grown, and it's been crazy. And right now I just feel like, well, I have 6 offices, about 80 employees, 56 to 65 vehicles, depending. And it's really, really fun, but there are a lot of things where you just don't know how you're going to get through it. I know all of us watching and listening right now understand, and you've experienced it yourself, is that there's so many things that come at us, and that we just don't know, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to get through this? But then we do. And when we do, that perseverance and that not even realizing what we're made of, we become more aware of what we're made of. And it's what we're made of that keeps us going. I've been through so many things. The previous woman, thank you for sharing. She was talking about 2008. And 2008, I didn't know how I was going to keep my business going. I really thought, I'm like, oh Lord, I just don't know how this is going to work. Guide me, give me discernment. And I realized my employees were my most important of my company. I could get rid of anything else. I just needed to keep my people. And so it was in my people. And when I bought my company, there was a small voice saying, your employees are your ministry, because I was heavily involved in church, and I was sad that I wasn't going to be able to do that. But I knew I couldn't give 100% to that, because I needed to give 100% to this. And so my employees became a ministry. And right now, just yesterday, I was water skiing, and a gentleman was on my boat that I had just met, and he ends up being this person who has helped open 85 churches in Guatemala and all over. And I'm just like in awe of that, because I want to have a significant difference. I want to have a significant impact. I don't want to just breathe air and just let it go. I want to have an impact. So, God, please show me where you want me to be used. So I have purchased, my company has 6 offices. I am in real estate because I own my properties I'm my own tenant. So I'm never late on my rent. It's kind of a joke, but not really. It's really, really pretty good. So I am in the real estate business, and I also have a couple homes, and I bought a ministry home. And this ministry home, this is another little nugget, is that this ministry home is for domestic violence mothers with children. And because I want to make an impact, and I had a struggle, and I just didn't know how to get through it. And I felt like this was a good idea. But anyway, the Lord just revealed to me when I was like 12, 13 about this ministry house. And it took 50 years, ladies, 50 years. But I have my ministry house. Thank you, God. But I have my ministry house. There's 1 woman and 4 children. There was another woman with 2 children. And it has 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. So it really could facilitate more. But it took 50 years. And another side note, I have bitten my nails for 50 years. And these are my nails. And I know that's no big deal to anyone else. But for me to have my own nails is really amazing. 50 years of biting. There's hope for every one of us that we can break bad habits. And there's hope for every one of us that don't let your dream get snuffed out. Just stay focused. It took 50 years for this ministry house to come to fruition. But oh my gosh, it's there. Right now, I feel my biggest struggle right now is people. And I keep saying for the last 2 years with COVID and everything, we need more people. We can't get the work done. Nice problem to have, but it's still a problem. But, we need more people. And then it just occurred to me that my thinking is wrong. I don't need more people. I need the right people. And I need to train the people I have to be more efficient and effective. If one person can do the work of 2, why do I need 2? And so I am really focused right now on maximizing, that's I think my middle name, maximizer. I'm trying to maximize everyone's thought process, time, attitudes. You know, you can't fix someone's attitude, but you can guide them. You can guide them, you can coach them. We have 4 core values in our company, and I am reiterating those every day now because I feel like I got off track by not reiterating what our values are. So if you don't have core values, then I think everybody should be focused on what exactly you are doing, what you want to accomplish, your purpose here on this earth. And I have a radio show on the side. Okay, this radio show I've been doing for 12 years. I don't know where the 12 years went, but this year it's an hour show. And now the #1 country station is taking my Christian radio show on their country station. I'm like, go, what? It's amazing. And someone told me, do you realize you're the only woman on our station? And it's one of the 2 Christian biggest broadcasting stations there is. And I was the only woman for like 7 years. And I had no idea. I had no idea. Why? Because it doesn't really matter. If you have something, use what you have. And it doesn't really matter what sex you are, what race you are. Do what you can do and do the best that you can do. And God bless you all. And I wish you well.
Okay, so the next question I was going to ask was to share some of your challenges. So Susan, you shared some of your challenges of people. What about you, Rosemary? What are some of the challenges you've encountered? You know, either building your business or instill the challenges that you have today. Because I think some of the ladies feel like you can reach the success without any challenges, and that's not true.
There's always challenges. You think, okay, gosh, once I get to here, then things will be so much easier. And for a while they are, but then there's always something. And it was many years ago, I attended the Women's WeBank conference. And there was a woman who spoke, and she's one of, her name escapes me now, but she's one of the wealthiest women in America. And she's really came from, you know, she was a single mom and without a high school education, gets a high school education, a college education, MBA from Harvard, and then starts working in investment banking and goes on to buy buildings and buy businesses, grown them. And she says it doesn't matter. There's always going to be obstacles. And she cited that she had been indicted for insider trading and ended up being acquitted of it. But she said, you know, I'd like that. I don't remember what the number was, but it was something astronomical, like $120 million back in attorney fees, right? That's money she's not going to get back. So with me, certainly there's been obstacles. You know, 2008, 2009, how do you go for an economy where there's just nothing going on, and how do you scratch your way out of that? So for 2 years, I didn't pay myself, much to Sue's point, so that my employees could get paid. And then you're thinking, okay, so I've got all this risk out there. Is it worth it? And, you know, I bet on myself. So I didn't go to a bank to ask for that financing. Fortunately, I had done well. And so I'm like, okay, I'm willing to lose this number. And we went for it. And fortunately, it paid off. It doesn't always pay off. So if every step along the way, right now we're doing a federal government project, and in that solicitation, they say, okay, you have to, for the electrical company, you have to use our federal contractor. Well, that federal contractor, in between the time we got the award and now, has increased their bid $465,000. So their contracting officer representative said, no problem. You know what? We know that you don't have control of it. This is our contractor. Give us a change order. We submit the change order. Well, his boss said, great, let's do it. His boss's boss said, no way. So now we have to go in and submit for a request for equitable adjustment. Well, that's great, but now we're sitting on they're borrowing essentially $465,000 of our money, right? We're going to get through it. We're going to end up getting that, but we may have to file a claim in order to do it. It's just, nothing's easy, right? Nothing's easy.
So does that also come with through the course of your businesses, different lawsuits or different complaints or different employees or customers, or from the outside as well as the inside?
So we're not very litigious, right? And so, but that claim that I just said is just part of the Army Corps of Engineers process. And it's, you know, the request for equitable adjustment, they don't have any requirement on the contracting officer to address it within a certain period of time frame, that claim will then force them to respond to it. But no, we've been really fortunate in having really good relationships with our vendors, with our clients, that we just we
Yeah.
haven't had lawsuits, right?
Right.
We've been very fortunate on that side.
I know, because sometimes there's a rumor going on that, like, if you're in business long enough and that something will happen. And I think, and I say that because sometimes we have a young lady that just totally feels like she needs to close her business down because of it. And it's like, no, it's just part of the process. And someone else in the conversation said, well, I eat attorneys for breakfast. It's like, whoa, okay. You really have to be tough. And I say that to say that logistically, or the obvious challenges that we have, but there's the internal challenge, like the talk that we say inside our minds. Like, what do you say in times like that? And then what do you say to get you out of that? For the ladies that are maybe approaching something, it's like a lot of people experienced what you were discussing in 2008, recently from the pandemic. They had to pivot their businesses. They didn't have the clients. I mean, something's literally had to shut down. They just had to shut down. And where does that money come for? The rents. One of our ladies opened up a restaurant. She had saved for 10 years to open 5 months before the pandemic, and she had to shut down. So that was her money and family's money and everybody else's money. So just internally, what do you say to push you through these, unforeseen obstacles and challenges? What did you say, Rosemary?
So with my business, I did a Goldman Sachs program. And if any of you have not done that program, if you've been in business for several years and you own your company, I would highly recommend that you pursue it. It doesn't cost anything except for your time. But for me, it was transformative. And what you get in this class of 25 or 30 people, and each time you get together, it's a 15-week intensive program. Each time you get together, you give your elevator speech or tell about your company. And it's the third week into the program. And I sit down next to the same man that I've been seated next to the whole time. And he says, so what do? You sell steel? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's coming out of my mouth? What do I hear coming out of my mouth that's not being heard by other people? And that really forced me to not only for me to understand what our value proposition was, but be able to articulate it in a way that it's being heard by other people that same way. And once that happened, I was very, very confident that our value proposition was needed. It filled a need, whether the client knew it or not. We were then able to sell it. And that's the big thing. If you're selling widgets, why buy your widget over someone else's widget? If you have that value proposition, and then the second component is there profit in it, right? It's not sustainable if there's not money, if there's not profit in it. So if you have those two things, then it's worth pursuing. Then it's worth getting over because you will reap the benefits of it. Do you agree with that, Sue?
Oh yeah, totally.
So what chatter do you have, Sue? What takes you through those challenges? What pulls you up and out? Like you said, this for different ones.
Well, there's so many, and I ask for discernment. I pray every morning, and I ask for discernment. I just want to understand. I always look for the win-win in any situation, if there is one. Not always is there, but when there is, I want to do that because then I feel like everybody leaves the party feeling good about the situation. So in negotiations and whatnot, you really need to be clear on what they really want, because sometimes people say something and you have to read between the lines because what they're saying isn't really what they're meaning. And so I just want to clarify, and I want to make sure that I understand both situations so that I can say, okay, so if I presented it this way, would that work for you? Do you think that would work? The hardest part for me is when you do have legal and they say, muzzle, you can't talk to the other party. And I'm like, are you kidding me now? Because they don't have skin in the game like I do. I want to get in front of that person to say, look, we got an impasse here. I get that. We got a conflict. Fine. Let's try to talk about it and work it out. Hardest part for me is to not be able to try to work it out because I think we need to work it out. And so, yeah, I would say that that's it for me. That's the biggest frustration for me is not being able to talk to the other party. And you're right. When you're in business, especially in California, it's getting harder. It's getting much harder to, just get through without needing an attorney. For a long time, people were saying, You know, well, you need an attorney. I said, well, what attorney do I need? Do I need a labor law attorney? Do I need a legal contract attorney? And then you're supposed to have all of these guys just sitting around waiting for you to call them. And how much does that cost? So yeah, there, you know, and understanding that we need to protect, you need to protect what's there is really important too.
So what challenges do you foresee coming out of this pandemic, or is there none? Basically, you just be able to just, you know, well, you were continuing, were you essential?
I'm essential. We've been essential. We always use our PPE. We always are using our protective gear and everything. Being considerate of one another and just understanding people are in different places. And I think there's a lot of emotional, especially those that haven't been able to function in their normal capacity. I have been fortunate, even though I think I've worked harder, because we have to be more flexible with my mothers who have children and are not in school. And so my call center is all mothers with children. And so they have to stay home. So who's going to answer my phone, you know? So, just a small detail, right? Yeah. So we've gotten through it. And we actually, I have somebody in New Mexico that worked with me for 15 years. She retired from me like 5 years ago, moved to New Mexico, but she's so good at what she does. I called her and I said, I need you. Can you do it? Because it's computer things, it's things she could do from there, which I never would have thought about doing this before I needed it. And so it kind of perfect vision 2020. I said that at the beginning on the radio show. I said, this is the year of perfect vision. And then I'm thinking, oh my word, this vision I don't want. I just don't want this vision. But then as I realized, assessing and really, you know, trying to learn from everything, because I like to learn, you know, give me that lesson. I want to be a quick learner, quick study. I don't want to go through this 100 times. And I realized that it did show me perfect vision, that my people still are number one, they're most important. And their needs might not be my needs all the time. But if we all understand what we're trying to accomplish and we all meet in the middle, then maybe we can make it happen together. I can't do my business without people, and they have to be knowledgeable. The other thing I say is victory is mine. Victory is mine, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me is something I say. And you know, as you can tell, I'm a strong believer. And I just really kind of, it doesn't make me a weak person. I think it gives me strength to understand that I'm not in this alone. And I'm humbled, and I'm put in a position of leadership. And I think the best leader is somebody that's teachable and humble. And I want to be that.
Thank you. You are. So Rosemary, were you affected by the pandemic much, or did you?
Sure, we were. And, you know, I see the three obstacles moving forward. So during the pandemic, certainly we're essential business, and that was wildly helpful. But a lot of our clients were not. We had two contracts for companies that were in the events industries, and those contracts just disappeared, equating to about $14.5 million worth of construction. We were very, very blessed, though, that our pipeline was wide enough and deep enough that we were able to fill all but 10% of that. And then so there was the uncertainty. What does 2021 look like? And because we're diversified, we have both public and private, it's worked out just fine. But now the headwinds, in addition to labor, and I think Sue's hit the nail on the head on that, is material delivery delays and shortages, and price increases. And I think we're all seeing inflation from every different aspect, from food, from clothing. You go into stores and there's certainly not the inventory that there used to be. With steel, between January and May, went up 77%. It's huge. Manufacturers that used to hold their prices for 6 months are now holding prices for 5 days. It's problematic for sure.
Wow. So I know since you ladies have come this far that I trust and know that you will work through that, but it just takes, it's constant. It doesn't seem like it's a smooth ride, maybe for a moment, but then also when you get to a certain point, you want to take one more, where you challenge yourself a little more. I think that's just part of the personality of successful women. So victories, what were some of the things that you say were victories that you thought, okay, whether it's a professional victory or just a personal victory, share. Rosemary, why don't you start?
I don't think that there's been any grand slam, but it's been a series of singles, right? So that first building we bought, the second building we bought, the progression of that, starting our businesses, taking that risk, refocusing on direct steel and construction and thinking to market that, and then getting our first federal government contract, and then getting each and progressively getting larger. We've got staff that have been with us 20 years. That all of that is just a lot of things that have gone the right way. Really hard work. I think there's an adage that says the harder work you work, the luckier you get. And I think that we've been the beneficiary of that.
So when do you celebrate, and what do you celebrate?
What do I celebrate?
Like when do you open that glass, that bottle of champagne, or when or how do you celebrate your
No, it's not about, to me, it's not about opening that bottle of champagne, but it is much to Sue's point, of prayer, thanks every day.
Amen.
So when would and what would it be that you would say, okay, this is my legacy, this is what I've done it, I've made it, I've celebrate your success? Is it when
I don't think that question's best directed at me, because it's
every day is a celebration?
Yeah. Sue, how about you?
I think that when I get a story, I'm gonna start crying, but when I get a story of an employee who comes to me and just says, because of you, my life is better, or it's changed, I'm a different person because of you. I think that's the best, and my children growing up with morals and character, and my daughter's she's expecting our second, my granddaughter, her daughter, and next month. And so, just to watch her as a mother, I've suddenly gotten smarter since she's a mom. It's funny because she's just appreciating, and she's seeing how much it takes in sacrifice when you're nurturing your children. And me writing that book about my son when I had a really bad accident and couldn't walk and had to learn how to walk. I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. Luckily 6 months, not forever. It was a horse accident. But anyway, so I wrote a book during that time because I had nothing else to do. And I just think the victory is every day is, I just want to leave this place a better place. And it's one person at a time. And so that's my victory. And I celebrate, I was in a relationship where I was tolerated. I wasn't celebrated. And I know what it feels to be tolerated. And I just want to celebrate with people. And I think it's important we celebrate, just the little victories. My nails, that's a little victory. It's big for me, but it's a little victory, right? Anyway, so yeah, I would say that's it.
That's a victory. So again, I think sometimes we underestimate little victories, that just, again, maybe getting it through a contract, or maybe getting, like you said, personal for your nails, or losing an extra pounds, or being brave enough to change the hairstyle, or whatever it is. Those are just little victories that, because our lives are so big, your businesses are so big, you sometimes forget or miss. So I think that's really important. That's really important. So those are victories. So secrets to success. Okay. Sometimes they say it's not such a secret, but what are some of the things that you knew if you didn't do, you may not be as successful as you are? What are your secrets?
Do you want me to go first, or Rosemary, you want to go first? I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I would just say that, use what you have. I think Moses used his staff. I would say use what you have. It's like everybody's going, well, I have to get here. I've got to do this for me to whatever. And I'm like, no, we are right here, right now. So what is it we can do right now? If you find a need, fill it. It's so simple when you think about it, but everybody they get in their head so much that they're just thinking too much. Have you ever met somebody that just thinks all the time, but doesn't actually move? There's no motion. And I think we have to move, it's in movement that things happen. And even if you make a mistake, so what? Make a mistake. Listen, I know Rosemary's made mistakes. I know I've made huge and lots of them. but it's what we do in that, you know, it's like, say you're sorry if that's what you need to do. But I mean, whatever you need to do, just, you know, do it. And you don't give up. Don't give up. There's a passion inside of each one of us. There's a purpose that we were created for. And we need to find out what that is. And it's usually what we're already good at. It's what we're already good at. You know, I didn't know I was going to be good in real estate. I'm actually being very blessed in my real estate transactions. I mean, things that I bought for very little and I'm getting paid really big. And I'm like, what is that all about? You know, I would just say that fear is false evidence appearing real. And a lot of us get stuck in that. It's false. So don't let it get you, you know, just break out of that. Do you know in the Bible, fear not is in the Bible 365 times. 365. That means we need to know fear not once a day, at least once a day. So just fear not and just go for it. Just do it, as Nike says.
And I'll add a caveat to it. Just do it if it makes sense.
Oh, I love that.
So do evaluate your business plan. Don't keep it as a business plan. Develop it into a growth plan. So how are you going to grow this, right? So your value proposition, what are your different, are you filling a need? And is it sustainable? So with me, construction is not necessarily my passion, but solving problems, helping other business owners maximize the return on investment, accelerate the building of their net worth, those are passions. I know I get to wake up every day and help someone, and that's a good, really good feeling, but it's also a sustainable business plan. No one's begrudging me for making money when I'm accelerating the building of their net worth by millions of dollars. It just makes sense. So to that end, hitting singles has really benefited me as opposed to swinging for that grand slam and strike it out. And so we've done that is just create goals and achieve them in a short period of time. So your goals are achievable, measurable, objective. And it's just a little bit of time, and all of a sudden you look back and like, oh my gosh, this is what we've accomplished. And you just keep doing it. Even internally within our company, we've got meetings, process meetings every 90 days. And it's amazing the number of things that we get accomplished as a group every 90 days.
So I love a couple of things that you ladies are sharing. Is one of them little at a time. So I think you said that I want to be a podcaster and have, you know, I don't know, 100, 500 episodes, take an episode at a time and, you know, be able to be very strategic about that. I also heard when you said about not necessarily business plan, but business growth, you know, so looking at it as something that you're going to take and grow. Like, you know, I've heard this story about, you know, take a seed and you plant it, and then you nourish it, you get the trunk and get the wing, you know. And I say that because a lot of ladies, sometimes I find them that they have hear that saying about multiple streams of revenue or multiple streams of income. So they're doing all these different things, you know, and I think that they would just be much more effective and productive if they picked one thing at a time. I say pick one thing, dig deep into that one thing, and then set different thresholds. So when you get to a certain point, you can do the next thing and do the next thing. So like to your point, is just being able to not think the win being the whole thing, being able to take a step at a step and be strategic about it. I think another thing that also is just being able to know what you know and know who you need to know, you know. So as far as something that you can't do, find out someone who does. Because I'm sure even in your business, there's always people that you need to consult with, whether it's other in your industry or not. I hear from Susan that, you know, she really relies on the higher power, whoever that may be, you know, knowing that you're not in alone, because it will happen. You know, we all get the constant chatter about either you get from your people that love you, you know, and you know, wish you well, but all tell you why you can't do it, or for other that may be competitors, whatever reason is, it has to be in your head, you know, and you have to feel that it gets to your point that it makes sense and it's sustainable. And if it's in your heart and your heart to help someone, you can do that. And then find tools. There's so many masterminds. There's so many. I know when I was building homework, you know, it was interesting because I had so much, you know, feedback about, that I was too old, I was a woman, I was a minority, and all these different reasons why. So at night, I would listen to how I built this on NCR, and I would put it on my iPad and I listen to it before I go to sleep. And I would wake up and listen to it. That was like my mentors. That was my fuel to get me up and say, well, goodness, if they can go through all that they've gone through and succeeded, I can do the same. So I encourage everyone to find, something that they can lean into or lean on to be able to make it through those different, thresholds that may be a little difficult. Secrets to success. But with that said, is there, what would you say to the ladies out there? So what would you say to the ladies out there that, have a dream that's been hit one way or the other, or that has a dream that's glowing and that's finally, what would you suggest? What would you say? What message would you give them with?
To me?
Yes.
I would say, number one, that you're very special and wonderfully made. You're wonderfully made. And, celebrate yourself and just understand that you're loved, and love yourself, first of all. And, if you need to get something to make you feel better, then like, a new hairstyle or something, something personal to just give you a lift. Sometimes I feel bad and I want to put on that black top. And then I think, no, I'm feeling bad. I need color. I need something to perk me up. So even if it's simple like that, just do something that's going to make you feel good. When you go in your closet, you should put something on that makes you feel like $1,000,000. And it just helps you get through the day in that regard, just to have that confidence level to push through. I think that helps. But I think that just understanding who you are and that you're wonderfully made, and get the information you need to push through whatever it is that's blocking you. We all have ceilings. Our thought process, we are our worst enemy sometimes. We are our worst enemy. And sometimes we just need to, I am mine. I've hit my ceiling. I've hit all my dreams right now have happened. So now I'm like 64 and I'm like, okay, I need a new set of ceiling. I need a bigger ceiling. I need a higher ceiling. And so, I got to lift that ceiling up because I've hit it. I'm holding me back, and I don't want to do that. And so wherever you are, just focus on it, learn from it, ask people their opinion, but you don't always have to listen to it. Okay. People will give you, like she was saying, some of your family, they mean well. Most of the time people mean well, but maybe they're just not telling you really what you need to hear. So, understand you got to find those friends and those associates that are going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I think that's a big one too. Surround yourself with people that are where you want to go. Don't hang out with people that you're the best. You're the best in the group. You need to set yourself in a situation where you get fed. Like Rosemary, I would love to hang out with her. I would love to hang out with her because I just love what she's saying. I'm still building, by the way, Rosemary, so we'll talk later. But I just really want to surround myself with Desiree's and Rosemary's, people that are just on fire and have so much to offer. It's just so great to be that. Anyway, talking too much. Anyway,
we all need to hear it. And then Rosemary, what would you like to leave our listeners with today?
Sue, I've quickly become a Sue Freeze fan club member too. And I'll address that question from a more pragmatic approach. So Sue's was more esoteric and emotional addressed, and mine is again getting back to that value proposition. The sustainability of the company, so revenue stream versus expenses, and your net income, and the help that you need. So I do recommend seeking out people that can help you. Some free resources, SBDC, the Small Business Development Centers, your tax dollars paying for this. There's people with relatively close to you through these SBDC centers that you walk in with your growth plan and they'll tear it apart and challenge you, and it'll be so frustrating and so rewarding. Similarly, there's the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. I recommend that if you're a little larger program business. There's all sorts of executive programs. I've done the Dartmouth Tuck executive program, their first phase and then their second phase. I do suggest that you're a little larger business when you're doing that. SBA Emerging Leaders Program, that's your tax dollars paying for that too. If you want to do federal government work, there's PTAC, Procurement Technical Advising Centers. That's our tax dollars is paying for that. So there's a lot of different resources that's free to you. Oh, also one that I use through the SBA is SCORE. These are retired professionals. And I went to one, and it was someone who was a senior manager, certainly didn't understand construction. And then I asked for a different one, and they gave me a different one. It was a very similar thing. And I said, you gotta have someone who's had a construction background. And they reached out, and they got a guy who after 40 years, they retired after 40 years of owning his own general contracting firm. I'm like, that's the guy. And we, for almost a decade, would connect with each other. And every time I talked to him, there would be a light bulb moment. We don't talk now because he's suffering from dementia. But as he was going through that process, I loved it even more because there was no filter. Everything that he believes was just truthful. And then also don't negate networking. You know, figure out who your good referral partners are. Not only people that maybe can refer you into clients, but more importantly, those people who you can help. Because typically, if you can help those people, it's just good karma. It just comes around. And that's not easy. There's, you know, commit to calling 3 referral partners a day. And you'll find that over the course of time, you're going to have 100 people that you're going to call once a month, just checking in. And it's amazing how that referral partner list over the course of years becomes so powerful. So those would be my more, from my perspective, pragmatic suggestions.
Thank you. Thank you. We got both sides. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome.